It isn't always easy to talk about meaning with any sort of result that is based on like fact or some sort of a stone cold truth, especially when it comes to film. Now, there are some films out there that seem a little more straightforward. You can kind of tell what they're about. But when it comes to David Lynch, things get a little more abstract. Now, you clicked on this film because you thought that you were going to get an explaining of Inland Empire, and I think that you will. But I just want to tell you that there are other reviewers out there who have done a good job combing the film for little details and references, physical gestures, words, things that are a nod to future events to come or premonitions or things like that. And I think those things exist in here, but for me, just for me, I'm not sure that that's where I find meaning. There's an interview that David Lynch gave about this movie when they were asking him about his process that I think kind of changes the story for me in terms of any sort of film analysis or interpretation.
Normally, you write a script, and a script is based on ideas if it's an original script. And so you try to catch ideas, and if the whole thing doesn't unravel in one idea, you get fragments. And then when you get a fragment of an idea, you write it down. And then you get another idea and you write it down, and hopefully one day you have a finished script. On this particular film, I would get an idea, write it down, and then go shoot it. And so I didn't know if a whole thing would emerge. I didn't know how this scene, then I get another idea, write that and shoot that, and I don't know how one relates to the other. But it didn't really bother me. I just kept doing that until one time it kind of started unfolding how they all related. The same process is in a script, but now the pieces have been shot up to that point. And then it goes faster because it draws in many things, and you can roll along. Laura stuck with me, and in the beginning it was mostly Laura and some Polish people in Łódź, Poland. And then, so Laura, we'd work on, like, say, the first scene and talk, and there was a character there. And so we talked just like you would talk if you were going to shoot a feature, but you're just talking about one scene. The second thing, now you've got the first to go back to. So the second thing, even though I don't know where it's going to fit or if it's going to fit, you talk about that scene and maybe how it has some resonance to the first. But you need, this trust thing is critical, especially when she sees this little toy camera. So if it's a great big giant, Panavision, people sort of take that more seriously. And if there's a huge crew around. But if it's a toy camera, and there's no crew, then it's you're asking a lot of someone. And so, bless her heart, Laura, stuck by. But it's scene by scene, and then when you got a couple, you're always going back to the beginning. I go over to Łódź, Poland, and I fell in love with the city and these people and these factories. And then I started getting ideas in that place. And so once that's happened, this happened. When you're dealing with an abstract picture, and as opposed to a straight-ahead narrative, say, but it's a straight-ahead narrative. It's just a different narrative, and you go the same way. You're working a thing. on a straight ahead film, you work a scene till it feels correct. And this, you work a scene till it feels correct. The order of scenes, there's a thing that you find by sometimes action and reaction, trial and error, but it's always talking to you. And so you just go until it feels right. There's many films that inspire me, but I always say my greatest influence was the city of Philadelphia. But ideas are the thing. You catch an idea, it doesn't come from Fassbender, I don't know where they come from, but they pop in. And sometimes you fall in love with an idea and see a way that cinema could translate it, and you're rolling. And the idea dictates everything. There's an expression, the world is as you are. So when things get a hair more abstract, you get a lot of different interpretations. And so if you see it that way, totally beautiful.
Listening to that, what I get from that is a true master who is willing to put a blank canvas on in the middle of New York against a wall and have anybody and everybody watch him paint. Because that's what's happening. And Laura Dern and all of the other actors, great actors, are willing to sort of put themselves in the middle of something that's kind of an experiment. Now, as you were hearing in the clip, normally you would have an idea and then you'd flesh it out and then you put it in a script and then you'd rework it and then you'd be ready to shoot and you sort of figure out, like, okay, this is what I want for this scene, this is what I want for that. But when you're talking about a genius like David Lynch, who is willing to sort of go one step at a time in front of people, almost like a stand-up comedian when they have to work out their act in front of people, it's so courageous. And while there might not be the same kind of connections between scenes and the continuation of the story or the arc as there might be in, say, Mulholland Drive or, Lost Highway, it doesn't mean that it's not there. It might even be better. It's just harder to decipher, at least for me, because it does feel like a film that's being made in the moment, even though there are connective threads. You establish something, then you go to the next thing that sort of has the previous things or thing in mind, and the story just kind of continues. What does this film mean? I want to caution you that when you first start watching this film, you're going to think the quality of this video is really bizarre for someone like David Lynch. I don't really know where this is going. I think this is asking a lot of me, and it is. But if you just stick with it for 30 minutes, and if you've watched the film, maybe you experienced this, you're going to eventually come along for the ride, and it's going to be as enjoyable as anything else that he's done, I think, maybe even more so. So getting back to the idea of meaning, what is this film about? Well, I'll tell you what I think it's about for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing for you, because there's so many different directions you could take this. I mean, to me, it's kind of about relationships and the failing of them and the duality of different roads that we take, and maybe even being able to sort of feel the impact of the decisions we make, and sort of the connection to the versions of yourself that took a different path. It feels like we're sort of seeing a couple different threads here of Laura Dern's character, her making one decision, her making another decision. She's also kind of caught up in this Hollywood thing, which is big in Mulholland Drive, right? The way that the city sort of grinds up beautiful women or actors and sort of uses them and doesn't really care about what happens to them. And the end result is that they care about the product and what they can get out there and the story that happens inside these sound stages, and that feels like kind of the most important thing, and that the people aren't sometimes. And I think it has that kind of a feel. I think it also could be a straightforward story about an affair that goes crazy wrong. I think there's lots of possibilities. I don't know what the answer is. You'd have to ask David Lynch, but I think that what I've heard him talk about in an interview was he kept saying it's just about a woman who's in trouble. And not that the artist gets the final say in what their works are. I mean, we can go through that sort of discussion below in the comment thread if you want. I'm not a big fan of the artist has the only say. I don't think it's unimportant, but I do think that there are times where, especially when you're talking about abstractions, that there are going to be other interpretations that might feel more right. So let me know what you think. This is a 3-hour movie. It's on Criterion Collection if you have that. This is not a podcast sponsored by them, but I think it's like $10 a month. So if you think it's worth a try, you could also try Canopy. If you have a library card, it might be on there. But Criterion Collection, I know for sure it's on. Let me know what you think below. Like and subscribe if you can. Get this thing going. I want to hear what you have to say. Have you seen it? What did you think? What did you think it was about? I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next time.